Bing bong, bing bong. Ah. I should move that over. Oh well. Ba-ba-ba-ba. Damn, I don't have my coca. I didn't get a coke. Fuck. Too late now. Ugh. What, do I have to log back in anything? No, something. Actually, wait, I do this. The fuck happened to me? Okay, that didn't work. Okay. Alrighty. Any updates on Telegram real quick? Check where you're on. Scheduled press briefing that was originally going to be 8 a.m. EST at the Pentagon with Pete Hegseth and General Dan Kane has been canceled. Advisor, Iranian Parliament Speaker. Nothing really interesting. Randy Fine is a disgusting human being. Wish I had those tools on here. Anyway.
This is Frisco, Texas, a once quiet farm town turned home to one of the largest and fastest growing Indian communities in America.
Where are you from?
India.
From India?
I'm from India.
South India.
I'm an H1B.
I'm into IT.
Motherland India or Texas, USA?
Obviously, Motherland India.
Obviously.
Obviously, Motherland India.
As the Indian population
Bro.
exploded from 3% to 33% of the population since the year 2000, many Texans are outraged, declaring there has been an Indian in.
Yo, what's up, M-Goat? How's it going, dog? How's it going? Do we want to do this right now? Brampton, Canada. Do we want to watch this? Well, first of all, it's an hour long. Put it in the title. I guess the purpose of this stream is just try to get back in the flow. No, never. Yeah, how's it going? I haven't been live. I haven't been live in like a week. You know, it was Holy Week. But to be honest, I was really just kind of uninspired. Shitsville, yeah, real. I was just pretty uninspired. There was like nothing going on, you know? I felt very redundant. But now it seems like things are starting to pick up again. There are things to talk about. So it's time to lock back in. You're here for your weekly pre-show. You hope you're well. Yeah, I'm doing well. I'm doing well. It's time to lock back in, all right? It's time to lock back in. You know, Lent is over. Easter, he has risen. You know, it's time to lock back in. What's up, Hawker? How's it going, dog? How's it going? Welcome, welcome. Welcome, everybody. I guess I see my monitor is kind of in the frame. Maybe I should push this back a little bit. Kind of see it, you know? Well, whatever. But yeah, so I imagine tonight's probably gonna be a pretty short stream because it's already 8:30. And Nick will go live probably in an hour and a half, 2 hours. Just kind of want to give like a sort of general overview, some of my thoughts. I got not a lot going on over the past week. The biggest development has been this event, this downed F-15 and what's going on with that. And you know, I'm still kind of catching up a little bit, trying to get all the details because it's not clear. To me, I'm not quite sure what to make of it, to be honest, at this point in time. And so I was thinking maybe, probably not tomorrow, but maybe Wednesday, I would sort of compile my thoughts on the matter because, interestingly enough, some people are saying that in particular, when well, let me be more specific here. Like this event with the two C-130s and this whole wreckage, I'm seeing some people now start to say, that's not very articulate, but some people are stating that this was a cover. And that potentially this whole thing was essentially, not to be redundant, but a botched special operations effort to snatch the enriched uranium from Isfahans. There are, you know, some people are saying that they geolocated, and I'll pull it up. I'll make this a little bit more, a little easier to follow. Some people, this guy apparently geolocated this FARP that the military put together. This temporary roadway, airway. What am I trying to say? Airstrip. Located it just a mountain range away from Isfahan, just on the other side of some mountains here, roughly 35 kilometers, I think one person stated that. Let me pull up because initially the reports were, what's going on there? Is there anything new here? No. Trump said none of our soldiers involved in the rescue operation, the second soldier plane crash in Iran, were injured. We will reveal the identity of the person who leaked information about the loss of contact, the American pilot, and bring him to justice. our forces have conducted more than 10,000 sorties and struck 13,000 targets in Iran. So some people, not necessarily me, but some people are claiming that this particular incursion occurred much closer to Isfahan than was originally reported. That they geolocated, where is it exactly? This airstrip somewhere here in the, I can't read that, it's too low. Calais Ghazi National Park. Because apparently what the A-10 went down somewhere over here, closer to the strait. That F-15, I think they were saying, was shot down and the rescue operations were occurring over here. The claim is now that the destroyed airstrip occurred much closer to Isfahan. Not sure exactly what to believe. I'm not saying anything concretely right now. But definitely an interesting theory. It's all FUBAR. It is all FUBAR. It's such a mess between the information that's very opaque coming from the US administration and obviously the Iranian administration. You got to take a lot of that with a grain of salt. The fog of war and a combination of internet schizos, difficult to figure out exactly what is going on. But again, I haven't done a full deep dive into it yet, but I think I'll do that maybe for Wednesday. Maybe for Wednesday, I'll try to put together my thoughts on that. But it's certainly an interesting theory because that's something that's been floated, right? They claim that the enriched uranium is a big problem. It's a focus of one of their strategic objectives was to in some way, shape, or form eliminate Iran's nuclear enrichment capabilities. And if you take their uranium, which there's a huge stockpile in Isfahan, that would severely limit their ability to enrich uranium into potentially weapons grade. That was one of the stated objectives of not just the Trump admin, but also obviously of the IDF. And they definitely floated some kind of ground operation. And you look at some of the assets lost, and pretty significant. I think it was, 2 C-130s, correct me if I'm wrong, and several MH-6 helicopters, which are the little birds, the unarmed little birds with skids for special operations. There was a roughly company-sized force that was supposedly engaging in firefights with the Basij, which is the Iranian militia groups, around this makeshift airfield over the weekend. A company size, and this was supposedly mixed with Delta, DevGru, and Green Berets, regular SF, which on top of having PJs, that's a very significant direct action group. That's very significant. You have what amounts to a company size of tier 1 operators for one pilot. Don't get me wrong, it is American doctrine to go to great lengths to retrieve any American lost in combat. That's why it's part of our doctrine to risk more planes and troops to get people out. And that just makes sense. One, that's who we are. That's part of our philosophy. Here in the West, but two, it also makes sense from a morale perspective. You want your troops when they fight to know that their government will do everything in their power to get them home. If you don't think that that's true, then you're probably not going to fight as hard. So it's very important for morale, and for optics, that we do everything in our power, that our government does everything in its power to get Americans home. But with that being said, typically, when in an operation like that, you would just see a bunch of Air Force PJs. You would see a bunch of pararescue men who specialize in this kind of thing. It seems somewhat out of, traditional SOPs to have tier 1 guys embedded in this makeshift airfield, it does feel a little out of place. But maybe for like a snatch and grab, like they're trying to pull all the uranium canisters, maybe that's not far-fetched. Maybe that kind of force package with that kind of hardware would be appropriate. Maybe the F-15 was running ops to support that operation in Isfahan's. It's plausible. That's why I don't think it's totally outside the realm of possibility that this was a cover of some sort. Not saying it was, but it's piqued my interest, and so I want to do a little bit more investigating. Oh, what's up, SSB? How's it going, dog? 155 aircraft. This is a PSYOP, bro. Which part was the PSYOP? Do you think this operation was for uranium? I'll just answer that. I don't quite know yet, but I think it's plausible. I think it's plausible it was a cover. And again, everything's happened so quickly, and obviously I was not paying attention this weekend, so I'm still kind of playing catch up a little bit. There's just a lot going on, so maybe actually what we should do is we could look at some recap. Maybe we'll look at this video, which I already
U.S.
watched.
Special Forces.
But this is I think a good summary of what the like Western OSINT is saying happened. So maybe we should start here, and then we can see what some of the revisionists are saying. But it's all very suspect, and I don't want to say anything definitively because we need to get our facts straight first. That's what matters. We want to know what's true. Either way, I think it was botched. Either way, clearly you don't blow up two of your own planes and several helicopters if everything went according to plan. But of course, the government is saying that two of their or was it two or one? Now, see, I don't even have all the details fully straightened out. But they got stuck either in the mud or the sand. An agricultural airfield not really designed for, massive C-130, something of that size and weight. So it would sort of follow that even with engineers on site sort of cleaning up the runway to make it serviceable, there's only so much you can really do, especially for a runway that's designed or intended to be used only for like 48 hours at most. So it's also plausible that the official narrative is true, but we need to, now that we've sort of established plausibility, we actually have to do the hard work and figure out what really went on. So let's start with this. This will be good content to react to.
U.S. Special Forces launched a historic combat search and rescue mission 200 kilometers deep inside of Iran. It involves hundreds of commandos on the ground, and we'll see how these troops even built a temporary forward operating base inside of Iranian soil. So today, we're going to analyze the tactics.
Trump said no one was wounded. Man, that's really washed out. How does it look on your screen? Can you see the map on this still frame, or is it washed out? Trump said no one was wounded. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't see that press conference. It's almost like you can't, like, obviously you can't really, you have to take everything Trump himself says with an enormous grain of salt. That's why it's been somewhat tricky to figure out what's exactly going on here. Because amidst all of this, we have to deal with the fog of war. So, yeah, and hey, don't forget to like the stream, by the way. Yeah, don't forget to like the stream. Leave a comment. Leave a comment. Doesn't even matter what the fucking comment is. Ice cream, bananas. What's your favorite fruit? Whatever. So yeah, Raisin Canes, General Raisin Canes, and Trump contradicted each other in the same press conference as far as wounded. Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest. I have serious doubts that. I mean, even like when they said only 13 service members, I think it's up to 13, are dead. I think that the number's higher than that. probably quite a bit higher. Maybe we're looking at several dozen. Iran, and this is like a week old now, Iran was saying like several hundred dead. Now, maybe it's probably somewhere between I think it's 13, don't quote me on that, confirmed dead Americans and several hundred. We're probably falling somewhere between that in reality. I think there's really no way to know for sure at this point in time. But yeah, I was talking to my dad, and he said, I don't know what he saw, but he said that some Iranians, like some of their footage, they saw like a skull or something in the wreckage. I don't know. I think it's totally plausible that the Iranians, like, it's also possible they took out all of that hardware themselves. That it wasn't a demo op by Delta Force. So. Anyway.
Behind how they rescued them, why more US aircraft are suddenly being shot down over Iran, despite US officials saying that they have unchecked air dominance, and we'll examine why the war is now entering a new, more dangerous phase. I'm your average infantryman and war correspondent, Chris Cappy. Let's find out. It all started on April 3rd when an F-15 Eagle aircraft was shot down on a bombing run over southern Iran by a surface-to-air missile. After a month of fighting, it was the first aircraft lost to enemy fire while flying a combat mission. Both of the US aircrew ejected out of the cockpit over hostile territory. This sent out a beacon of their last known location to CENTCOM. The pilot and the weapons system officer parachuted down and landed in the mountainous terrain of southern Iran in the Boyar Ahmed province. But they were separated during the landing. The race to find them was on instantly. The Iranian IRGC launched a massive search effort to capture them. At the same time, the US launched a combat search and rescue mission deep behind enemy lines to rescue them. In the US military, they will move heaven and earth. They will risk multiple other aircraft just to come and find you. You will not be abandoned. The downed F-15 pilot landed and was quickly able to signal to the rescue crew with his location. Commanders sent in an HC-130J, a special fixed-wing aircraft that flew extremely low over the town. Its job is to act as the command and control for the rescue mission. By flying low, it avoids radar and long-range air defense missiles. This video, taken from the ground, shows the C-130 taking enemy fire. They deployed decoy flares that saved them at the last second.
It's also, as an aside, it's also kind of crazy to fly a C-130 during the day.
Long-range air defense missiles. This video, taken from the ground,
like this is kind of crazy. There's a reason why most C-130 ops, and granted those were, you know, the gunship variants, but there's a reason why they would almost exclusively fly during night. Because you're this huge, slow-moving target, and especially if you're flying low, easy target to hit, even for just regular, you know, like flak anti-air or like small or medium arms fire. Like that's like this is kind of crazy. You know, maybe they really overstated their effectiveness at knocking out the Iranian anti-air. I think that's part of it. Maybe there was some overconfidence. I know, like, there was some Israeli intelligence that said that we took out 80% of their anti-air, which, you know, of course, why would the Israelis want us to believe that? Put two and two together. So it's like I see this and I'm like, did they just shoot down the C-130? Did the Iranians just straight up gun down the C-130 because it's flying low, slow, in the daylight, when Iran doesn't have very good night vision? So I don't know.
Shows the C-130 taking enemy fire. They deployed decoy flares that saved them at the last second. The C-130 also acts as a floating gas station. We see here it's refueling the two HH-60W Jolly Green Combat Rescue helicopters, all while in dangerous contested airspace. These special helicopters are equipped with special electronics that
Like, the lack of logistics here is actually such a huge liability. Because we don't have air superiority even, like, what is it? Air supremacy. And clearly they still have anti-air capabilities. Like, that is just such a huge risk to fly helicopters and, slow-moving propeller planes over contested territory when you don't have a firm ground presence. Like, you're asking for your shit to get shot down. Like, it doesn't take a general to figure this stuff out. The whole leave no one behind narrative makes no sense. I was behind a guy today with a POW MIA sticker on his truck. We get into an actual war and our soldiers are cooked. Government don't care. Well, yeah, I mean, you can look at Vietnam. I mean, there's only like so much. I mean, from a realistic perspective, there's only so much you can do. But it's really, I said this earlier, it's really there to help with morale and for optics. Because if you think your government is gonna abandon you, are you gonna fight that hard? If you think your government is not gonna, like, move mountains to get you back home, like, are you going to be as tight-lipped if you're being interrogated? So I think much of it is for morale. Iran said they shot down 2 C-130s and 2 Black Hawk helicopters. That's one of the other summary videos I saw. That like one helicopter was shot down, maybe 2. Yeah, either way, it's something has gone wrong. Sorry, MC-130Js. It's the same. Yeah, it's the same plane. It's just a different classification. Like, it's a different like armament. Like, technically there were HH-60s and not like UH-60s. I think there's a different. I don't think that technically makes them Blackhawks. Like, they have like different, but it's the same like base fuselage, same base model. So, like, yeah, if you say MC-130Js, effectively the same thing as C-130s.
Zero in on the pilot's location of the downed pilot's beacon. Overhead, the A-10 Warthogs provide close air support gun runs. Early reports indicate that inside these 2 helicopters were a platoon of heavily armed Air Force Special Forces pararescuemen. Once they landed, these ground forces jumped out and provided covering fire. They shot any enemy in sight. Then, the special operators loaded up the downed pilot and they took off. As the combat search and rescue team was exfiltrating, though, both helicopters took small arms fire, according to U.S. officials. The equipment was damaged, some of the aircrew were injured, but they made it out of Iran and back to base alive. But here is where the story gets absolutely insane. The second F-15 crew member, a colonel, a weapons system officer, or WSO, was still missing deep inside of Iran. And the airspace was now too dangerous to do the same kind of recovery mission. You couldn't fly slow, vulnerable aircraft overhead during the day anymore. To further confuse things, though, many of the US government have been saying for weeks that the war is already won. They've made statements that the war is as good as over, and that the airspace is totally in control and dominated. These statements, I think, have confused the public and created unrealistic expectations of how wars are really fought. The IRGC had set up air defense ambush points. According to a senior U.S. official who spoke to the New York Times about the mission, when the second downed airman landed, at first he hid in a mountain crevice. His location was unknown to both the Americans and the Iranians trying to capture him. The airman was wounded from the violent ejection where he pulled 15 Gs. But he could still walk. He had a personal weapon system and a recovery beacon that he'd recovered from the ejection seat. If you look at the 3D map of where the rescue took place, you can see it's in this deep valley between mountain ranges. There are several nearby villages here, and there's a city with a population of over 100,000 people, many of them searching for this pilot. At this point, the Central Intelligence Agency ran a deception campaign, according to US officials. They put out misinformation inside of Iran to try to fool them into thinking the airmen had already been rescued and was moving out of the country inside of a ground convoy. It was the CIA that also ran what's known as Unconventional Assisted Recovery, UAR. This is a broader term for their efforts to engage with the local civilians, either by infiltrating on the ground or through signals. As you can see here in this diagram from a study on how UAR works, this is essentially the same strategy used. They landed outside the high threat air defense bubble around the downed pilot, and they brought the pilot outside that bubble to exfiltrate. The agency contacts civilians who shelter the downed airmen. This team helps facilitate the rescue. This protocol has been used since the 1950s, and it came out of lessons that were learned from World War II and the Korean War when it came to unconventional means for rescuing forces. The way UAR works is they send in teams on the ground before search and rescue even starts. These UAR teams stay behind enemy lines and they meet up with the pilot. Often they are friendly forces like Kurdish units that are positioned on the ground in advance. Through these unique means, the CIA officer found the airmen's hiding position and they passed that information along to the Pentagon. You can see here on the live conflict map, it's already been geolocated where the rescue mission took place. The Pentagon then stood up one of the Special Forces' largest rescue mission took place. The Pentagon then stood up one of the Special Forces' largest and most complicated rescue operations in history. As night fell in Iran, the airman was hiding for more than 24 hours.
Those pilots have a PRC 112, so it's not too hard to find them as long as the batteries don't die. Yeah, I mean, which, you know, begs the question, why was there such a big force package if especially if the claim is, okay, let's take a step back. If the claim is we have air supremacy, or at least air superiority, and let's also presume there's no Iranian jamming technology that would jam, you know, any kind of, satellite communications, then they probably would have found the weapons officer pretty quickly. At which point do you need 100 tier 1 operators, two C-130s, two HH-60s, and at least several MH-6 Little Birds to assist in an operation to find said weapons officer? That seems unnecessary. That footprint seems way too large. Really, the more I think about it, the more that just seems like an overcommitment of resources for a single pilot, like an inappropriate amount. Because if you know where he is, presumably because he's got the is it a radio? It's a radio, correct? But he's got some form of geolocation. I used to repair the PRC-90 when you were on active duty overseas. So what do you think, Mr. Forge? It's a two-way radio / beacon. Is that, well, would they have, I think, do they have satellite? It's a redundancy piece of kit. Well, either way, they would know exactly where he is, correct? With that kit, which is standard, they would be able to locate him fairly easily, right? Um, and again, if you have air superiority, then you would likely have some form of radio receivers in the air to pick up on any kind of transmission. Do pilots have some kind of satellite communication though? Because if you're, let's play devil's advocate, if you're in a mountainous region, then it would make radio communications more difficult. You would have to rely on the radio waves bouncing off of the ionosphere, I think it is. But the mountains make it more difficult to communicate. Yes, they can triangulate based on signal strength. Either way, you would have a rough area of operations, right? And if you were, so you probably have an idea of a pretty good idea. Like if a plane goes down, you have a pretty solid radius, right? Because you're tracking the plane's location in real time. You have a good idea of where that pilot can be. And so if you send rescue personnel or other aircraft that can pick up on radio signals, you would be able to find them pretty quickly. So the idea that you would need 2 C-130s, 100 Tier 1 operators, several MH-6s, and a FARP seems just incorrect. Does it not? That just seems unnecessary if you know where the guy is. Correct me if I'm wrong. I'm sort of giving my thoughts in real time. Depends on the altitude where the LZ might be. But to evade, you should not leave any beacon on because it's fairly easy to detect. That's true. I mean, part of SEER is, they can pick up on radio signals too. It's a PR stunt, or you could say they wouldn't want a PR faux pas. Yeah, something's gone seriously wrong. Like, something has gone seriously wrong in this op. Obviously, if, you have, over the weekend, an F-15, an A-10, I believe 2 C-130s, at least one supposedly HH-60 damaged, several MH-6s, a Chinook was also hit, but that seemed to be an unrelated drone strike. Something's gone wrong. Clearly something's gone wrong. And the question is, like, was this a failed op, an unrelated op that they're using the rescue operation as cover?
At this point, America's combat search and rescue capability is unlike anything that their adversaries have. The US will historically go scorched earth and find missing troops behind enemy lines. The pararescueman motto is, "These things we do that others may live." It's a promise to the US, to its troops, that no man will be left behind.
And like this talking point, which is not necessarily not a real thing, false, that we would move all of this these resources to get our guys back. I mean, that would be a perfect cover for a massive ground presence or for some really complicated special operations mission near Isfahan. Because if and we'll pull up some of the autists. If supposedly, is this the right thing I'm looking for? Right. So according to this particular sleuth, right, he believes that the airstrip is in a different location. "200 kilometers away from where they, initially said it occurred. If I have this correct, if I'm reading this correctly. Much, much, much closer to Isfahan, where the nuclear material is located. If this geolocation is correct, then this event happened not where they said it would. It happened. And much closer to where you would suspect the AO would be for a special op to take the enriched uranium. "125 miles. What is the historical achievement here? I don't get it. Even if their story is true, it still sounds like a failure. He was shot down behind enemy lines of..." Dude, what is going on? It sounds like a failure. He was shot down behind enemy lines, defeated military and with air superiority. Some of it is misdirection because I like it is a failure, but they're trying to spin it because they don't want it to seem like as big of a failure. It's a failure no matter how you look at it. Like an F-15 getting shot down, there's no way that is good for us in any way, shape, or form. It's like people saying like, look at how good Delta Force destroyed our own shit. It's like, does it feel like you're winning? I'm seeing some people like legitimately they're saying like, yeah, Iran is pissed that we blew up our own stuff. What? What are you talking about? So it's an abject failure regardless. But the question is this a bigger failure than they're letting on? Did they actually, if this is true, is this like what would maybe be considered the greatest special operations failure since this is the last time we were in Iran with that helicopter collision? What year was that? Was that 80? What year was that? Yeah. Yeah, Eagle Claw in 1980. Fucking AI is useless sometimes. We took it to Iran. Because like how bad would that look if we tried to get their uranium and it just totally fucking failed? And we send essentially the same people, the same unit that got Maduro, and it was just an utter failure. That makes us look incompetent. It's an embarrassment because we couldn't make good on our threats. That's what they're trying to avoid, if that's true, by saying that this was a rescue op. And instead of like, let's say Iran took out our all of this hardware, we took it out actually in a daring split-second decision because we couldn't you know, they couldn't, they got stuck in the sand or in the mud or whatever they're saying. We actually decided to take out our own shit. It wasn't Iran, actually. So it's a face-saving measure. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Begay pointed out that U.S. aircraft landed in Isfahan. I think they were trying to seize enriched uranium stockpiles at Isfahan. You don't need that equipment for a rescue. That's sort of what I'm alluding to. There was one of the vice presidents also stated something similar. He believed that the rescue operation was a cover, or he alluded to it. I'll find his tweet in a minute. That there was maybe something else going on. Screw it, book a ticket to Iran, go chill in Tehran, do investigative journalism. Yeah, let me just ask around. Let me just go up to some IRGC guy and say, hey, did you guys take out those C-130s? You think I would be allowed back into the country if I did that? Probably not. They'd probably put me on a list. That's like a great way to get blacklisted from for ever re-entering the country. So, some interesting theories. Covertly stealing hundreds of pounds of enriched uranium sounds like a job for them boys since they have experience in doing so. It's a lot harder when, you know, they're taking it from somebody that doesn't want it taken, you know? Right, this isn't like a ship interdiction. This is you're going into like a hardened bunker. You know, you're going into a fucking death house. You know, you're not stealing uranium from a ship that left, what was it, the Netherlands? And you're not doing a business deal with like you know, some ex-Soviet warlord. You're going into like the den of wolves here. That sounds like a job for the Goyim, you know?
Meanwhile, the airman used this SEER training known as Survival, Evasion, Resistance, and Escape. He hiked up 7,000-foot-high elevated ridgeline and activated his beacon, according to U.S. officials. At this point, CENTCOM had a lock.
Speaker could do it. He has done many ops online that match this situation. Step aside. I've played a lot of Arma. I know how to handle this situation. Step aside. Have you seen my KD in Call of Duty? Yeah. Shouldn't mess with me.
On his position, and according to officials briefed on the mission, the airman had a beacon and secure communications device to talk to them. He had to restrict the use of these, though, because they could also be picked up by the Iranian forces. This allowed the airmen to coordinate with the U.S. Special Forces. Meanwhile, Iranian state TV announced a bounty on the aircrew equivalent to $64,000 for any intelligence leading to the capture of the pilots alive. That's like many years of salary to people living here. We know that the IRGC was closing in on the position because they posted photos of the wreckage of the F-15, and they found one of the officers' ejection seats. A mixed signal was sent on the screen instructing people to shoot the aircrew if they saw them. The American aircrew would be used as leverage in negotiations, or paraded as propaganda on TV, or worse. Early reports indicate that local tribesmen helped keep the airmen safe. This is because, luckily for the WSO, the airmen, he
was given $15K for a bribe, cigarettes, and Zin. Sent to the Strait just beyond stupid. You're going to war, here's your Zin. So based.
This part of southern Iran is not friendly to the IRGC. Videos started going viral online of what appeared to be Iranian people crowding the streets, blocking Iranian forces from making their way to the downed pilot. These tactics of the downed airmen working with locals to survive are all learned in SEER training. It's a mysterious, highly classified school shrouded in...
Are there any... Wait. He is an officer, though. That is a weapons officer. Who's literally an officer. I don't think they put anybody in the cockpit of a fighter jet that isn't an officer.
Mystery in the US military. SEER teaches troops how to live off the land and evade capture.
I don't think there are any pilots that are not officers, actually. You have crewmen that are enlisted, but isn't that true? There are no pilots that are not officers.
Battalions from the IRGC at this point are now converging
It's a lot of very expensive hardware to be responsible for.
on where the airman was hiding. They had seen the search and rescue crews circling overhead in the area, and they had descended upon it. Because of this,
All pilots are officers. No enlisted are going to be in a fighter jet. Yeah, that's weird. I don't know why I said it like that.
it increased the risk of the mission and complicated the rescue efforts. That's why the US deployed hundreds of American commandos from every branch. Reportedly, Delta Force, Green Berets, SEAL Team 6 all were sent in, and they were prepared for a contested rescue. The way they sent in hundreds of troops, they needed to have a large transport aircraft. So they constructed what's called a FARP, 200 kilometers deep inside of Iran. This is a forward-armed...
I don't know. Do you need... I just don't know if that's necessary, is it? Maybe. Maybe it is. I don't know. Could Tier 2 guys effectively do this? The only non-officer class that fly is in the Army, but they are warrant officers. They fly helos. Gotcha.
Refueling point. It's done by clearing a stretch of land or commandeering an airstrip and then flying in transport aircraft. This OSINT account that broke some of the information reported that they landed on this geolocated agricultural runway here near Shariza. This is where they can refuel the aircraft in remote locations when air-to-air refueling is too dangerous. It's also where ground forces could move in on foot or in smaller Little Bird helicopters flown by elements of the 160th SOAR, as we'll see. Setting up a FARP is a highly specialized job. Of the entire US Air Force, there's only 63 qualified FARP team members. They do this with minimal equipment and personnel to keep that low footprint. If they'd stayed there another 48 hours, they probably would have had a green bean coffee shop there. A lot of people are asking, how is it that an F-15 gets downed, but slow-flying C-130s and helicopters could survive during the day? The US military opened up a small window of opportunity inside of Iran here. The way they accomplished this was by massing all their efforts from cyber warfare to space-based systems to airstrikes to electronic warfare, all on this one single province. This overwhelming force made it so that the US presence could not be contested during this limited window of time. It was localized air superiority, and it was set up near the Isfahan nuclear site just south of there. The US setting up a base deep inside of Iran.
So this is where so even on here, even on this, according to the BBC, the aircraft wreckage was here. That's very close to Isfahan. US search aircraft filmed operating here, though. And that's true. Right, they have the footage that's been geolocated of the search aircraft. Not sure. Not sure what to make of this. This is why we haven't seen Conquest. He's bribing locals with Zin to find pilots. He'll make an appearance this weekend. Are we winning yet? No, we're not. Yeah, we're very tired of winning. No, thanks for the sub. What's up, Ching? They said they were doing decoy ops. So yeah, they're going to be all over the place. Yeah. No noties? I don't know why noties are not working. They should be. Because, like, if, okay, I know this is going to derail everything, but if I go to alert box and I play a test, like what? Test. Boom. Twitch. Sub.
While we're out here, it's gonna suck, yeah. But memories
That
last
works.
a lifetime.
Are you serious?
It's the type of thing, man. You're gonna be psyched after you're done with it. Oh my god, dude.
Now you see, that's the type of hijinks I'm looking to avoid.
Kevin just dropped a sub.
I need to
This
make
is
that
a
shorter.
subscription test.
Yeah, so that works, but for some reason, when you actually subscribe, I don't know why it's not working. So it's kind of hard to test because when I test it, it works. But I'll figure it out. That's another thing I gotta fucking fix, this boomer tech nonsense. Just dog shit software, just always. Anyway. Kumquat will lead the US to victory. Oh, yeah. He's out there zinning it up. Zinning it up.
Here represents a major security failure for the IRGC. What they did was they actually commandeered this runway for C-130s to fly in hundreds of these special forces. If they were spotted or their cover blown, Iran would have fired attack drones and ballistic missiles at their location. Since it was night, the American commandos moved out to rescue the remaining airmen. Early reports indicate they flew at least 2 little
Does Mello's names start with the K? No, I'm not Kumquat. I'm not
bird
Kumquat.
helicopters to the mountaintop area to rescue the airmen. Our understanding of how it worked is they flew 200 kilometers from where the airfield was south of Isfahan to these coordinates here where the downed airman was. And these are based on geolocated coordinates.
Yeah, so it's like... No, just a thought. Just a thought. Wouldn't it make sense if your FARP were further, was closer to the border and not deeper in Iran? Wouldn't that make more sense? Like, let me just make sure I've got this correct. This is right here in Arizona. Where is that? Isla. It's somewhere over here, right? Okay. So if this is where the pilot was found, I don't know, wouldn't it make more sense to try to find, try to establish a FARP over here? Or over here? I know you can't, FARPs don't grow on trees, but it seems a little too suspicious. If they would have a FARP right here near Isfahan where they've got that stockpile of uranium.
It's also consistent with the tactics we mentioned earlier of unconventional assisted recovery, where you exfiltrate from outside the alerted area, pretty much exactly like how any Metal Gear Solid 5 mission works, come to think of it. Most of Iran's forces do not have night vision goggles, so these operators would have the advantage now. US military officials speaking to the New York Times and other sources state that the commando team opened fire with their weapons to keep Iranian forces away from the rescue site. They unleashed a heavy hail of suppressing fire on the Iranian forces. Roads leading to the point of contact were just absolutely taken out and demolished, causing massive traffic jams as Iranian forces tried to respond. Footage taken by Iranians on the ground.
FARP is hilarious. Oh, okay. Well, I guess what I mean is Like, you need a suitable candidate to build your FARP, right? Especially in like mountainous terrain, like you can't just like you can't build your FARP on the side of a mountain. It has to be very flat, and that's why they use an agricultural airfield. You know, I know it's the acronym is silly, but depends if there is mountain/terrain they could use for cover.
That night and uploaded online showed an intense gun battle. Flares were in the sky dropping down, explosions left and right. There's more cell phone footage showing dead besieging militiamen that I can't show here, but it's on Pepperbox. Reaper drones overhead fired missiles at any armed military-age man within 3 kilometers of where the pilot was hiding. They successfully reached down airmen. The airman was injured but alive. From here, we know from the early reports that they were taken back by the Little Bird helicopter to the FARP, that makeshift runway, and the C-130s were waiting to fly all of them out. 2 of the C-130's wheels were either stuck in the loose sand or they were damaged by enemy fire with no time to repair them. What we know is the IRGC was descending on their location, so US commanders at CENTCOM made the decision to fly in 3 more transport aircraft to evacuate everyone. Delta Force reportedly blew up 2 of the C-130s in place so that the sensitive equipment in them wouldn't be recovered by Iran. And the pair of MH-6M Little Bird helicopters were also blown in place. They could have been too damaged to take back as well. The War Zone pointed out that they could have been flown inside of those C-130s to begin with, which would take a long time to break them down and then retransport them and recover them, so they may have been blown in place to save time. Or they could have been shot down by enemy fire. This part is unclear. But what we know is they then flew out of there on their new transports, and both aircrew had been safely recovered after one of the most intense 48 hours of combat search and rescue ever. Throughout history, the US has sacrificed many lives in the name of saving one person like this behind enemy lines. Why go through all that trouble? Part of this is psychological. You can fight deep inside of enemy lines, and you can fight outnumbered and surrounded on small remote patrol bases in the middle of nowhere if you're confident, if you know that your country will never leave you behind. But the story doesn't end there. It continues to get crazier. Just a few hours later, the IRGC uploaded footage. They were standing at the location where the forward operating base was blown in place. More photos were released of the FARP showing that it was still smoldering when the IRGC were there. These IRGC members later showed up at the scene, and Iran claimed that the aircraft had been downed by air defenses. It was still unclear what the truth was. During the combat search and rescue operation, they deployed A-10 Warthogs for close air support. These A-10s were sent deep into Iranian airspace that had not been cleared. These are called Sandy. They're specialized, qualified, and dedicated A-10 pilots that are trained in search and rescue procedures. Because of this increased risk of where they were flying and how low and slow they were flying, searching for these F-15 crew members, these aircraft were more exposed. During the rescue operation, an A-10 Warthog took enemy fire from Iranian military from what is believed to have been a surface-to-air missile that we'll get into more later, and the A-10 was able to make it back to friendly airspace after getting hit, and they ditched the equipment in the Persian Gulf, and they were quickly rescued out of the water and brought to Kuwait to be treated. But why are more US combat aircraft seemingly suddenly being shot down at higher rates like this? Almost 10 aircraft were destroyed in the past 72 hours of high-intensity combat. First, we need to put this into perspective. After a month of flying more than 15,000 sorties, hitting 13,000 different targets, flying deep all over Iranian airspace from east to west, this was the second US aircraft that was downed by enemy fire. All of Iran's air force has been destroyed or cannot take off at this point. In the Gulf War, remember, a total of 42 manned coalition aircraft were shot down by enemy fire in the first month. In the first weeks of the Iraq invasion in 2003, about 11 manned aircraft were shot down. Over 100 more were shot down during the insurgency phase, even with total air supremacy. Russia and Ukraine each lost roughly 70 manned aircraft to enemy fire just in the opening months of the war, and hundreds more since then. The US has roughly 2,800 combat aircraft across the Air Force, Navy, and Marines. In a war, losing 2 aircraft is considered negligible
Got that
losses.
booster pack from
Adding
China.
in the total US aircraft damaged, destroyed on the ground so far, and add up losses of equipment, and it represents 10 manned aircraft about, it represents an expensive but insignificant loss. It is a shock that more have not been shot down. However, just because the US is winning tactically so far does not mean that they're winning strategically. The Iranian regime is still in power, and by all accounts, they're even more hardline now than before, which makes things worse. And the IRGC maintain the ability to keep the Strait of Hormuz closed, which is a strategic operational objective for the US. This is asymmetric warfare. Iran does not need to win militarily to win the political objectives of the war. To get into why the skies are becoming more dangerous, though, there are several reasons that I've observed. The initial wave of airstrikes killed the majority of Iran's top political leadership and military leadership. This made coordinating an initial effective air defense for Iran very difficult. None of the air defense batteries were getting orders. After the first few weeks of the bombing campaign, an estimated 80% of Iran's air defense was believed to be destroyed. Those initial estimates, including air defense systems of all types, radars, and additional detection means, but 20% still remained. Much of it is hidden in underground bunkers. By late March, something started to change in the air campaign over Iran. We saw footage of anti-air missiles getting closer to hitting a US F-15 aircraft. More than a dozen unmanned Reaper drones were destroyed, each costing $30 million each. And an F-35 was hit in a glancing blow. Iran was starting to put up more of a well-coordinated resistance. They had figured out ways to operate their air defense without their top leadership. In war, you use what's called tactics, techniques, and procedures, or TTPs. TTPs are your method of attacking. It's your whole strategy. These TTPs, though, they evolve based on what your adversary does. They're never locked in place. When one way of fighting is ineffective, you switch to a different way and test that. Iran is
They're unapologetically Israel's muscle enforcer, and it's infuriating. We're rescuing our downed pilots, losing billions daily while they demolish Lebanon for shits and gigs. Yeah, it's, I don't know how anyone can, defend this war. It's insane, man. It's when you really think about it, like, what are the ramifications? What are the consequences for this? Like, unironically, people have no idea how bad this really is. If this war is not wrapped up soon, which it most likely won't, what is that going to do to energy? For example, the cost of energy. China will likely be okay. They can still get energy from Russia. Although, you know, they've already invested so much. So if, you know, if this the fighting escalates and nothing is getting through the strait, I mean, you know, China, rather, Asia in general is going to feel the shock of the supply chain crunch first. And it's going to happen pretty soon because it takes time for the delay in the supply chain to catch up to this war. So the ships that had already left the strait, that were already in transit, you know, they're arriving, and everything that's based upon those logistics are now going to feel the shortage of the lack of energy coming through the strait. Europe and Asia are going to feel it the hardest. But supposedly already one of the French tankers already made it through the strait. So presumably Macron struck some kind of deal with Iran. And so that's putting a strain in our relationship with all of these countries. Trump calls for these countries to get involved in this war on his behalf. That's what he's banking on. That the longer this war goes on, the more these other countries will feel it first. Countries like all the European countries and Asian countries like Japan, Korea. He's banking that they'll come to the side of America. They'll dedicate military resources to fight Iran to reopen the strait. when it seems like in reality, they'll just strike deals with Iran and they'll leave America out to dry. It seems to be what Macron is doing. And they'll just say, yeah, we're not gonna help you guys. And so diplomatically, think about how that's straining our relationship with all of these countries. We are torpedoing our relationship with these other countries for a war that is not even in our interests. The objectives of this war do not benefit America in the slightest. If we accomplish all of our goals, what do we actually tangibly gain from this? Now, obviously, Israel has a lot more to gain from this war than America. That should really tell you, obviously, what's really going on here. But this can totally precipitate the end of the American empire as we know it. Because right now, our economy they're banking everything on AI. Everything. And if AI doesn't have this sort of global takeover, if the foreign investment gets spooked, or they don't want to invest in AI, particularly in their own countries, because energy costs go up, it requires a tremendous amount of energy to run these data centers, then that AI bubble, purely based on the increased cost of operations, could burst. And if that bursts, then our economy collapses very quickly because of how much we've banked on that, That's like the one thing Trump has tried to say is a victory. One of the signals that our economy is actually doing really well and it's totally not fucked in the way that people think it is. It is, spoiler, because they keep saying, well, look at the stock market, look at the Dow. And it's like, and so much of that is just speculative investments. That it's speculative investments in things like AI and energy, which are very related to one another. So if that bubble bursts, we are fucked. We are very, very cooked because we don't have any other major industry, at least one that isn't heavily embedded on AI and it hasn't heavily invested in the success of AI. So if that bubble bursts, we're in big trouble. We're in big trouble. And we're already in trouble. So and again, the longer this war goes on, the more incompetent, the less competent America seems. The less of a sure bet America is. If you're a foreign investor, if you sort of exist on the margin, if you exist on the fault line between civilizations, like in the Pacific, for example, like if you're Japan, you're thinking, maybe America isn't a surefire bet on our security. Or if you're Korea, you're like, they just took our air defense systems, our missile defense systems for Israel. So you're already pissed off. Maybe now you're saying, maybe you're beginning to reevaluate your relationship with America. And this is happening on a global scale. And a lot of countries that may have otherwise have been, in some way constrained by America might feel emboldened. Look, America is kind of getting rocked in the Middle East. Maybe they're not such a big threat that maybe we initially thought. Maybe we could invade our neighboring country. And so it's a very destabilizing force. And people are second guessing America as a country that can make good on its threats. And that's really bad for us. That's very bad for us, especially considering how we built our economy. Like what do we do? What is really backing up our dollar? One, it's the fact people use our dollar, okay? But why do they use our dollar? Because we have the most powerful military in the world. So if that is no longer true, what is really convincing? What is persuading countries to use our currency? If not our military, is it our massive manufacturing base? No, because that doesn't exist. Are they dependent on us for energy exports? Not really. There are other key players that we are competing with. You know, they can get their energy from the Saudis, they can get their energy from Iran, you know, for the most part, kind of, maybe. Russia. So we don't really have, you know, we don't really have a dominant control over that market. So if, and again, like power in its purest form is derived from force. And your ability to maintain your force, your military, is heavily dependent on your manufacturing base, because you need to supply that military, you need to build that military, you need the hardware. If you don't have a manufacturing base on top of all of this, and your military is atrophying as it is, then you see where things are going. We're writing our you know, Trump is you know, his mouth is writing checks that the military just can't cash. And so people in these various business deals are, you know, if you, again, one of these countries, you're going to begin cutting America out as a middleman, because you can, because you don't need them. Maybe you perceive that you don't need them. You know, it's this, people are going to feel emboldened to stray away from America, to leave America's sphere of influence. And so just think about how that, plus our lack of manufacturing base, our waning economy, on top of, like, let's say an exodus of foreign investments in the American economy, that's like, we're talking breadlines again in America. And I short of like an American capitulation in Iran, I think that's where we're heading. I think we're headed for an economic disaster. So yeah, 30 million for one drone. Yeah, it's crazy. Boomers are defending war and eating up the slop from Trump and Hegseth. Yeah, I mean, boomers aren't going to be here in 10 fucking years. Doesn't matter what they have to say. Boomers got us in this fucking mess. They're retarded. Ships are getting through if they pay the toll, supposedly 2 million. Yeah, they are. They are. So it's not completely closed. And like the way Iran can come out of this, you know, this challenge to their authority, they could come out the authority that controls the strait. You know, if this really goes sideways for America and for the other, you know, the other Arab countries, you know, that would be a pretty big dub for Iran if they, out of all of this, get control over the strait and just totally mog like the Emirates and the Saudis. That would be pretty fucking funny, huh? That's one of the reasons why Saudi Arabia is secretly pushing for America to up the aggression, to up the tempo. So despite the fact that they're getting bombed by Iran, they don't want Iran to control the strait. Temporary pain for long-term gain. It's like this war is designed to destroy Iran and America. Yeah, and then Israel will ascend. You know, they're turning the lights out in America on their way out, you know. So pretty disgusting. Pretty disgusting to watch. But most people don't think about like these sort of secondary or tertiary consequences of this war. A lot of people don't even understand the rhetoric that they're saying. It's just like really pretty blackpilling, I guess. According to Lloyd's list, the Hormuz toll is being settled in Chinese yuan. I guess it wouldn't be too surprising. Well, you know, why would they risk using American dollars, you know? Even if we came to a 100% peace plan between US and Iran, and Trump and the Ayatollah get married, and there's still that pesky little country the size of New Jersey, as long as we have them, this won't end. We need to do something about New Jersey. Yeah, real. Yeah, no, that's true. We need regime change in Israel, is what we need. Yeah, you're just not We should be seizing the Israeli nukes. That's not going to happen, but yeah, obviously we're fighting the wrong enemy once again.
Is now switching to an unconventional method. If Iran observed, for instance, that the US aircraft's TTP, when being radar locked by a longer range S-300, is to drop down low to an altitude below 20,000 feet, that would create an opening to fire their new Majid truck mounted system that hits up to 26,000 feet. This is believed to be responsible for damaging the F-15 and the F-35. This uses a passive IR or heat-seeking missile. This missile gives no radar lock, no warning to pilots. They are often unable to evade or deploy countermeasures, usually. The IRGC in Iran is adapting their tactics based on more than a month of observing thousands of US flight patterns and tactics. They've studied the most common ingress and egress routes, and they have positioned ambush teams there. The F-15E and most aircraft do have what's called a missile warning system that detects plumes from these type of systems once they're launched, though. But some of the aircraft don't have that system, and they rely on radar only for missile warnings. A month is a long enough time span also for China and Russia to funnel in more advanced types of anti-air systems into Iran. There are unconfirmed reports of Russian S-500 air defense arriving in Iran this past month. And complacency can also creep into even the best soldier or airman. High mission tempo rates can also put strain on pilots and equipment, reducing effectiveness. Controlling the skies without ground forces will become even more difficult in the next few weeks. The way to understand how air superiority and air control really works is understanding the 4 official degrees of air control in US military doctrine. A lot of politicians and lawmakers and journalists do not understand these, but they're important. The lowest level of air control in a war is called air parity. In this, neither side controls the air. Both sides can operate in the sky. Both sides can interfere with each other with comparable or almost equal effectiveness. There is high risk for everyone. An example of this is the war in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine. The second type is called favorable air situation. This means you're likely careful about the type of targets that you choose, and you might cancel flight missions altogether because the risk is too high. Then there is air superiority. This is when you're basically able to fly anywhere in the airspace. This is what they currently have. There are still effective threats, but it won't stop you from running the mission to begin with. The final type is called air supremacy. This is what the US had in Iraq and Afghanistan for many years. This is where there's still threats, but they're sporadic and totally ineffective. Gaining air supremacy is difficult without any ground troops, which is likely why we're seeing thousands of US paratroopers have now already been moved into the Middle East and Saudi Arabia. And interestingly, we're seeing that they're being moved and housed in hotels and office spaces instead of big bases. The soldiers are living in safe houses distributed in the public among civilians. This is what large-scale combat operations in the modern age look like, more similar to what you would have seen in World War II. When I reported in Ukraine, every soldier I saw stayed in apartments, in houses, and in basements at the front line. They do not stay at any large bases with flags on the top, and the same is true for Russian soldiers. Small patrol bases will not be possible in this new form of warfare. With long-range precision missiles and drones, the way to survive is to push out of bases and not be seen. The escalation of the air war continues, though. By early April, the air campaign entered a new phase. This is the B-2 bridge in Iran, the largest in the country. The Islamic Republic of Iran invested the equivalent of over $400 million into its construction over many months. Once finished, next month, it will connect Tehran to a neighboring city, cutting traveling time. On April 2nd, the US Air Force destroyed it with JDAM bombs. This is the next phase of the air campaign that we're seeing here. Part of the reason why this is done is to go against Iranian propaganda, to show people in the streets that the US Air Force has total control here. It's a way of putting fear into the population as well. Many online were quick to say that it was a war crime, while others said that it was a strategic target. They'll be targeting the country's power plants and civilian infrastructure. This can be done with graphite bombs that were used in the war in Iraq that shut down transformers temporarily, turns off electricity. These are carried in missiles and bombs and are dispersed thousands of these ultra-fine carbon graphite filaments that spread in the air. They land on, they short-circuit power stations. This is easy to remove and fix, though. So if the power plants are bombed, if we see that happen, that would turn off the power for much longer. The air war retaliation from Iran has also escalated. Iran expanded their target set, striking Kuwait's desalination plants that they rely on for fresh water. How long can Iran continue these missile attacks? A new report from US intelligence actually assessed that 50% of Iran's ballistic missile system remains intact.
Oh, what's up, Smelly? I hate to admit, but you're a fake cell. The Floyd's got you. Oh, okay. What a way to come in. Missed my monologue. It was brilliant. What was it? Was it? I was just riffing. Yeah, I don't know if it was brilliant. Yeah, it's yeah, I guess. Well, welcome in. First of all, you'll rewatch Speaker's #1 guy. I haven't been live for a week. I've just been kind of Holy Week and all that, and I said at the top of the stream, like, I was a little uninspired. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I felt like I had nothing to talk about, and there was a big content drought, huge content drought. But I just felt like I was repeating myself a lot. You know, I don't know how some people do it. Honestly, I don't know how. Like, every once in a while, I'll tune into Asmongold. I say this all the time. And it's like, okay, maybe I'll save this, but like, somebody like he has a shtick. I don't know if I want to go into this right now. Maybe I'll save it for after this, and a lot of times I feel like, you know, these people just kind of say the same thing every day. You know, you see it with like a lot of like right-wing commentators. Oh, the woke left. You know, let's react to this latest Disney trailer and see how woke and gay it is. You know, they react to it. Look, everybody's brown. Everybody's brown. You know, I don't know. Like, I feel self-conscious if I feel like I'm just saying the same shit. I get bored of it. If I'm getting bored of saying the same thing, I just think, well, how would the audience feel? How would you feel if you didn't eat breakfast yesterday? You know, like, and so that just makes me feel like I'm just not putting out compelling content, you know? And I don't know how some people can go live and say the same thing, same takes, essentially reacting to the same stuff every day, 8 hours in some cases, and then just do the same thing the next day. I also don't know how people can watch that 8 hours every single day. Same thing, same takes, predictable, nothing really too thought-provoking, just kind of more rhetoric you've already heard. More woke slop from Disney. Grr. Remember when Disney was based? You know, remember when Disney was super based and it wasn't like gay and tranny and everything? And it's like, how do you... I don't know, you know, like, I get it. Okay, I get it. I've heard this a million times, you know? It's I guess with anything, like, anything just becomes old if you just hear it enough. And it's not like I'm chasing the novelty of things, but, you know, I just feel like if once I've already said something and there's no new developments, it feels like, well, I'm going to go live and just say the same thing I've just been saying for weeks on end. I don't know. But whatever. Maybe it's not about that. You said the rescue was fake. It was a botched radio device. No, I didn't. No, stop. I didn't say that. I'm just investigating. I'm just doing a little bit. I'm just asking questions. I'm just taking a look because like I said, I'm a little out of the loop on this one. I saw this happen, but again, I'm sitting there. I'm just enjoying, like, Sunday. Yesterday, Easter Sunday was such a beautiful day. I just wasn't really online a lot throughout the last few days or so. Just, it was Holy Week. You know, Good Friday is a very solemn affair. You know, I think it's just a good time to just sort of reflect and not to be, you know, cheesy, but it's true, but to try and reflect on your relationship with God during that period of time, you know? And some people like to make Easter or Good Friday all about, like, the Jews. You know, oh, the Jews are seething about Easter. You know, it's like, yeah, but that's not, don't get me wrong, that's like a part, but that's not the crux. You know, we're not going to mass to stick it to the Jews. You know, we're not going, you know, don't let them own that. it's about adoration of God and the sacrifice on the cross and how much God loves you, so much so he was willing to die for you. And he would die, he would do it all over again. That's my God. That's what I believe in. You know, it's about the essence of love and how critical it is to our existence. What even is love? You know? And you ask these questions and you do some soul searching a little bit. You know, you renew your baptismal promises during the Easter Mass as well. And that's kind of what I was thinking about. And but anyway, I'm going off on a tangent now. So I was just you know, thinking about other things, taking a step back. As I think is sort of appropriate for the occasion. But anyway, I'm always fresh, do a good job at speaking. That is why they call me speaker. I try. Missiles are really scary as hell. Shame what they're doing to those people, man. Imagine hearing and seeing that shit when you're a kid. Goodbye, innocence. Hello, IRGC. Yeah, I mean, people wonder why people are radicalized when, like, you watch your country gets bombed and, like, people you know get killed. Maybe your parents. It's like, how does that not radicalize you? You know? People are shocked that, like, there are radical insurgents fighting Americans in the Middle East. Like, it's sort of like, you know, not to be like that guy, but like, what if America got invaded by, like, I don't know, China or whatever, and they occupied America? Like, we would see American insurgents that were radical, you know? What, the Chinese are going to get pissed off if, like, American insurgents are blowing up their tanks and helicopters? So you understand why there are these insurgent forces. And I'm not making a defense of terrorism or terrorism tactics, of course, or radical Islam. But it's like, you understand why these things are happening. You know, why people are radicalized. And maybe, you know, we shouldn't be surprised. That's what's so, like, you know, maybe irritating about a lot of the rhetoric and propaganda is like, oh, we're liberators. It's like, you know, we're fighting a war that's not in our interests. You know, Iran is not a threat to America or to Americans. It's like we put all our bases and our troops in the Middle East, in many cases in harm's way, because we're inserting ourselves there. You know, we are fighting these wars on behalf of Israel, and we get pissed off when our guys get hit because they're in a place they shouldn't be, fighting a war they shouldn't be fighting. We're gonna cry about Soleimani. It's like, maybe we shouldn't put our American patriots in harm's way, you know. But I'm just riffing. Mel wishes us luck on specs. What was that JD diaper? Oh, I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the JD diaper post. I didn't realize that, dude. I was gonna tweet this, but it got fucking. I didn't do much tweeting at all recently. It's funny that I didn't intend for this, but like the one tweet I put out recently was like about, like Indians in the GOP. Not my intention, but I had to chime in. But yeah, I didn't know that JD stood for G Diapers Vance. I mean, that's just like, yeah, I wanted to talk about that. Maybe when we get through the rest of this, we'll do a pivot. What's up, Nisu? Yeah, we are an occupied country. Praise Allah. Nah, that was crazy, dude. When Trump said praise Allah on Easter Sunday, I know he's being facetious, but it's like, of all, like, what are we doing? Are we serious? Yeah, if Trump said we were making Iran safe for the Floyds and gays, I know, yeah. It will be the best time for gay Iranians, women Iranians, Hispanic Iranians, black Iranians. It'll be a golden age for them. Yeah. Did you wish us luck? Wish you luck on what? Alhamdulillah. Yeah. Alhamdulillah. That's not me saying I love Jesus. Yeah, I know. Like, but I saw Trump say that yesterday. It was like, dude, hello, optics check. That's just crazy. Oh, on Apex, with you on the team, I don't know, man. Yeah, I guess you're gonna need it. Every city and town in America is either a rust bucket, homeless shack, or a corporate hellscape, but Iranian women can't wear their hair in a ponytail, so we gotta liberate them. The logic is rock solid. Yeah, I mean, dude, our country's going to fucking shit, and it's happening so fast. That's why, maybe I guess there is a lot to talk about today. You know? Babe, wake up. New Tyler Oliveira documentary just dropped. But this is happening in our country in real time. This town in Texas went from like 3% Indian to like 36%. It's like unfucking believable in 20 or so years. It's like, dude, it's so cooked. But yeah, golden age. Let's go fight this war, huh? I was listening to Trump talk to reporters yesterday. He's been doing the same shtick for 10 years. It's irritating. It's fucking irritating. Like, can you talk like a real human being for like 2 seconds? Demonstrate some genuine behavior? I don't know, man. It's been old. It's been old for a long. Like, put some fucking shoes on, dude. Holy shit. How do people walk outside and go, "Yep, all good, everything is great"? It's wild. Yeah, it's people are just negotiating with themselves. They're just like gaslighting themselves. Some people unironically think that like if you have a complaint about the homeless issue, for example, one issue, the homeless issue, I've had like libtards say like, "Why do you care? Like, what are you talking about?" I say like, "Yeah, the homeless problem in San Francisco is disgusting." And it is. And they go like, "Why do you care about other people's misfortune?" And I'm just like, why don't you? What the fuck is wrong with you people? Like, you walk over homeless people on your way to work every day and you just like, oh, ooh. Like, you think that's fine? You think it's fine people live like that? You think it's fine for you to have to live like that? It's just unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. But yeah, here's another 6 million. Here's another 6 gorillion to Israel. But anyway.
Keyword intact. This appears to go against the Israeli claims that 60.
It's just going to keep getting worse. Like, this war, the longer it goes on, is just going to keep getting worse. As Cappy's describing here, their tactics are adapting. They're reestablishing their chain of command. They're adapting to our tactics. And again, it seems like just a ground invasion is inevitable. Because they're just going to start hitting more and more of our planes as they adapt, as they get better tech from China and Russia. So what are the options here? Okay, so Trump says we're going to hit their bridges and their power tomorrow. That's the big threat. Okay, so we're gonna go after civilian infrastructure. Are we gonna create a refugee crisis? Are we gonna start genociding the Iranian people? We're gonna go after civilian infrastructure. Is the intent then also to what? Turn Iran into a failed state? Who's that gonna benefit? It's not gonna benefit the other Arab countries or Muslim countries or other Middle Eastern countries in the region. It'll benefit Israel. They would love if all of these other countries were failed states. But you think Saudi Arabia, or you think like Kuwait, you think Pakistan wants this enormous refugee crisis on their border? You think they want Iran to devolve into a bunch of warring warlords? Is that a good idea? But obviously Israel would love that. Is it going live? Oh, he is. He is going live. Oh, shit. Anyway. To have Gaza type control, you gotta have Gaza type control. Yeah. That seems to be where it's going, man. They would love to just, like, kill kill everybody. They're just so fucking psychopathic, man. Your replay gang? Yeah. Let me see here. I've been replay gang too for Nick for recently.
Military.
Yeah, he's live. Yeah, anyway, I should hop out of here then. Out of respect. For the goat, for the king. But anyway. Hey, if you guys are here, don't forget to hit the like button. Leave a comment. It doesn't matter what the comment is, just for the algo. Type for the algo. I don't care. Comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And a comment, not a chat, a comment, you know? I think that helps. I don't actually know. That's what everyone tells me. Yeah, but I will be live tomorrow, earlier. I'll go live around 6 or 7. not making it like around 6 or 7. And I will we'll pick up where we left off. Probably talk about the Indian invasion a little bit. And you know, maybe a little more. I didn't get to some of the schizo posting about the potential secret operation. Again, I don't know. I haven't done the deep dive, and so maybe I'll have something by Wednesday. We'll see. But anyway, take care, everyone. And rewatch today's VOD. 07, everyone. Thanks for hanging out. I appreciate it. Yeah, and I'll be back tomorrow around 6 or 7 Central. Yeah, I gotta go to the gym earlier. I went to the gym today. Yeah, and yeah, it's time to lock the fuck back in. It's time to lock back in. That's what we're locking back in, okay? Enough. Holy Week in Crimson Desert has done a number on my productivity. Anyway, I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. God bless.